A lot of you guys have asked me, how do you actually get into UX from a different job? I thought I would make a little video on my story. I got my foot into the door through any job in tech. I was happy to take a pay cut. I just really wanted a career change. It was handy that I had savings and that I cut my costs as much as possible to be able to not worry whilst I was in the transition period. You can't just be in a very well-paying job in a different field and expect to get paid exactly the same amount in a completely different field or job. So there is that, an element of sacrifice, an element of learning, and also you should start learning before you leave your job. A bit of the background, my career didn't actually start in tech. I didn't know what I wanted to do after school. Most of my friends were going to uni and I had no idea what I wanted to study. I decided not to go to uni straight away. Got a job and worked in recruitment for about 2 years. I had worked for recruitment consultancies, which were very salesy, very deals driven. The company I worked at, they had a digital recruitment space, and it was there that I was introduced to the world of tech, from speaking to developers and understanding what is going on in the tech world, what our clients are doing. That got me really interested, and especially the fact that there were people working remotely. This is obviously before COVID. I was working in the office full time, as were most people. I figured there's people out there who are actually working from tropical islands. I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. Not only they are building game-changing products from anywhere. So I decided I wanted a career change. I wanted to be a developer, but I also didn't want to quit my job. So I stayed in my full-time job and I enrolled into a computer science degree. In the evenings, I would go to work during the day, and then from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m, sometimes 7 p.m, I would just go to uni and study. That was my path into tech. At this point, I didn't even know what UX design was really. Eventually got my first internship. It also was not in software engineering, and it also was not in UX design. It was in product marketing. I joined a very small startup in Shoreditch. I was just doing all sorts of things, as you would expect an intern to do. Luckily, it was a paid internship. I did take a pay cut. When I was working in recruitment, I was earning more than when I had got into my first tech internship. This was a hit that I didn't mind taking. I had my savings, I was still living at home, which helps. But generally, I think it's important to always have your emergency funds, your savings, if you're doing a career change, because you are going to have to start from the bottom somewhat and learn. So did that. I finished the internship, it was 3 months long. They offered me the job. I politely declined, managed to get another internship in front-end development at my next startup, Everledger. I spent my first year or so doing front-end development, working together with our head of product, who was a front-end developer and a UX designer, and I got really inspired by him. He was building what he was designing, and I wanted to be able to do that too. After a year of doing front-end development, I politely asked if he could teach me a few things, show me how to basically do design. I remember at this time we were still using Sketch. It was a few years ago. So I spent the next 3 years doing both front-end development and UX design. My path into UX design was basically just doing what I could to get my foot into the door. I didn't go to a boot camp to do UX design. I didn't even get employed to be a UX designer when I first started out. I just found my way into tech through a door. And then when I was in the job, started working very closely to the UX designers and asking for them to teach me things. I had always been interested in design. I was always on Photoshop, learning new skill, Adobe Premiere Pro. I had done some freelancing app designs in the past, even before I was a UX designer. I didn't even know it was called UX design. Someone just asked me to design an app, and I was like, okay, I'll give that a go. They liked it, they paid me for it, but I didn't even know this was a thing. And then after I was at Everledger, then I got hired at another startup to be their first UX designer. That's a little bit about my story to give you some insight. In some following videos, I'll likely talk about what you could do to find your way in as well, and what are the important things for a junior designer to understand and to learn.